Welcome to the So You Missed Church podcast. We are happy to have you here with us today. Happy Monday to you. This is Clint Daly, and I'm hoping that if you went to church this week, you got something from it. You benefited from it. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you were encouraged. But maybe you missed church this week. Maybe you just couldn't go. Maybe you didn't even actually miss it that much. We're hoping we can still help you get your week started in a positive way. And first and foremost, I want to say that I hope you had a very happy Easter yesterday. And I know that it isn't that way culturally, and I understand it, but as Christians, we should probably be celebrating Easter way more than we ever did Christmas. Because without the resurrection of Jesus, we literally have no reason whatsoever for hope at all. But in this day and age, we know Christmas is a month-long celebration. Meanwhile, we barely celebrate Easter at all. We kind of have a few, chocolate eggs laid by some sort of weird oviparous rabbit or something. It's weird. I don't know. I don't understand it. But once again, for us as Christians, if Jesus doesn't die and then come back from the grave, let's be real clear. We're all wasting our time. But maybe you hear that, and maybe you think to yourself, well, Jesus may have died for someone, but it wasn't for me. He may have died for something, but it wasn't for me. And today I want to challenge that thinking just a little bit, because we all have things that we struggle with. We have guilt that we may feel is unforgivable. We have flaws or misdeeds that we have done, and we hold on to those things. Those things cannot be undone. Those things are the worst things that we have done, and I don't care what anyone says, there's no way Jesus died for those sins, because I won't even admit to doing those things out loud. There's no way that my soul can be restored from those dirty little secrets that I carry around with me. Well, let me ask you this. Were you personally responsible for killing Jesus Christ? So, as today is the day after Easter, let's dig into that just a little bit. So we know Jesus was born in Bethlehem, as we celebrate at Christmas time. And even as a teenager, Jesus begins speaking in the temple, and it is apparent right away, this kid is wise beyond his years. And he continues to teach people as he grows older, and he's eventually attracting large crowds of people to listen to his teachings. But understand this, the religious leaders of the day did not like Jesus. And when I say they didn't like him, I mean like they really didn't like him. I mean like they wanted to kill him. And I'm not talking figuratively, I'm talking literally. Why? Because he undercut their importance. Now, I'm going to say something today here on the podcast that some of you may not like, and I'm sorry in advance. But here's a little secret. Churches and religious leaders can be a little bit like politicians in that they like nothing more than to convince everyone of how important they are in the great scheme of things. I told you, you might not like it, but it's absolutely true. Okay, so Jesus shows up on the scene, and he doesn't bow to these religious leaders. Not only does he not fall in line with them, but he calls them out on their hypocrisy. He preaches a new way of doing things. No longer do you need to follow that Old Testament law to the T, because Jesus healed people on the Sabbath. That wasn't supposed to be done. No longer do you need the religious leaders to go to God for us, because you can pray to God directly. You can pray to him without their help and without even giving them any money. You don't need to ask a religious leader to do it for you. And also, he made sure to let everyone know, can you stop using the temple as a corporation to just make money? The point of the temple is actually not to run a business. Well, does that sound like it might step on some toes? Because it did. Oh, but Jesus isn't done. Because not only does he say all of those things, but he also says he speaks on behalf of God himself, because he is the Son of God. Well, they've heard enough, and they're gonna have to kill him. That is blasphemy, and the religious leaders were not going to stand for it. So the religious leaders collaborate with some of the political leaders, and they bribe one of Jesus' closest followers, his disciple Judas Iscariot, to sell Jesus out, and they would take him to trial and have him killed. Okay, so maybe you know the story. Jesus has the Last Supper with his disciples, and at the Last Supper, after they eat, he tells Judas, what you're going to do, get to it. And Judas leaves to go assemble his arresting party. Meanwhile, Jesus takes his disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray because he knows that not only is he about to undergo one of the most brutally painful deaths in the history of mankind, but he will also suffer a far bigger pain than that, because he will also suffer the separation from his Father God as he takes on the sin of the world, a pain way worse than crucifixion, as bad as crucifixion is. Okay, so here comes the search party, and they say, we are looking for Jesus. And Jesus says, I am he. And in the Gospel of John, in chapter 18, in verse 10, it says, then Simon Peter drew a sword and slashed off the right ear of Malchus, the high priest's slave. But Jesus said to Peter, put your sword back in its sheath. Okay, so we know this guy's name was Malchus, and we know he was the servant of the high priest, and based on that, we can probably safely assume that Malchus is a priest in training. But here's a problem for Malchus. Let's go back to the Old Testament law that Jesus began telling us we didn't need to follow to the T, and we go back to the book of Leviticus. And in chapter 21, it is laying out the laws for who can become a priest. And it says they cannot shave their heads, they cannot trim their beards, they cannot marry prostitutes, they cannot be blind, lame, disfigured, or deformed. They cannot have a defective eye. They cannot have skin sores or scabs. Did you hear that? No skin sores, no scabs, no deformities. They can't be disfigured. You know, like, I don't know, maybe a missing ear? Or a giant hole where that ear used to be. Malchus will never be a priest. Peter just cut off his ear. So we jump over to the book of Luke, and Luke gives a little bit more information about the arrest and about this incident. In chapter 22, it says, when the other disciples saw what was about to happen, they exclaimed, Lord, should we fight? We brought swords. And one of them struck the high priest's slave and slashed off his ear. But Jesus said, no more of this. Jesus touched the man's ear and healed him. Malchus joined the arresting party with the priests and the politicians to arrest Jesus and to have him killed. And one of Jesus' disciples steps up and cuts his ear off with a sword, thus ending Malchus's career. He will never be a priest. He will never be able to continue on in that lifestyle. And what does Jesus do? First, he tells his disciples that his kingdom will not come from violence. Put your swords away. And then he restores one of the men that came to kill him. You think Jesus doesn't care about you? You think he didn't die for your sin? You think he can't restore you? That, my friends, is why Easter should mean more to us than any day of the year. Because Jesus came for you. He came to heal each of us. He came to restore each of us. Easter gives us that ultimate hope because Easter is the day we celebrate when Jesus erased our debt and restored each one of us. Hey, I hope that you had a very happy Easter. I hope you were able to spend it with friends or family, and I hope that today you recognize what Easter truly means. Again, all you have to do is accept that payment Jesus made for you. No strings attached, no work required, just accept it. And that, my friends, is the very best part of Easter. Hey, remember, you can always contact us at youmisschurch@gmail.com because we'd love to be a source of encouragement to you. You can follow us over on Facebook or X at YouMissChurch, and you can subscribe to the podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are hosted. Just type in You Miss Church. It's probably going to come up for you. If nothing else, you can always find it over on YouTube. Hey, I wish you all a very happy Monday, and I hope that you have a great week.